Welcome to Stop Wasting Your Wine, a wine review podcast dedicated to helping you discover great wines with great value for every occasion. On this episode, we review
the Castello de Titignano Turlo from 2022.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Aaron here, joined by my two best buddies, Colin and Joel, here on an awesome Thanksgiving week. We're here again, gentlemen. How you guys doing?
My favorite holiday. Can't wait.
I mean, what's not to like?
Did not realize this is Thanksgiving week, and I have a lot that I need to go do right now.
You have plenty of time. You have less than 48 hours.
Oh, great. Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
that's all I need.
I mean, so let me ask, like, how much do you have to do? Are either of you hosting the main event this year?
Nah. No, keeping it pretty small, actually. Yeah, no, we're just going to the in-laws. It's actually just us and my mom at the in-laws, so it's gonna be super small. And we're in charge of bringing mini pumpkin pies and cookies. So
Nice.
We're handling dessert this year.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
How about you,
Wait,
Joel?
so not just pumpkin pies, but mini pumpkin pies specifically.
Yes, that's right. Mini pumpkin, not just a pumpkin pie, but individual like phyllo dough.
Those
They're
like
really
personal
good.
pan pies?
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh.
Well, not even. They're like almost bite-sized pumpkin pies. Really good. Yeah.
That sounds amazing, actually. All right. I love it. And no, I'm actually, I don't have to do anything. We're going down to my in-laws. Just got to bring the kid so everybody can play with her. And then we're just going to hang out. That's pretty much the plan. How about you, Aaron? What are you doing, man?
So we're doing a bit of a drive. We're driving up to Vermont. You know, over the years,
lovely.
Thanksgiving has become
Lovely this
less
time of
of the main event, and Friendsgiving has become the main event for us. You know, we have like a
100%.
core group of 3 or 4 families that we grew up with that we all kind of travel around. So last year we hosted. This year our friends in Vermont are hosting. So we're going to trek on up there, and we'll do Thanksgiving dinner there on Thursday, and then do the additional Friendsgiving dinner on Friday. So we have quite the week ahead of us.
You do back-to-back, huh?
Well, a bunch of folks can't make it up till Friday because they're at family Thanksgivings on Thursday. Since
Sure.
we're doing like the big travel, and we're not, we're just going to do Thanksgiving there with the folks that come up early.
Amazing.
So it's double trouble.
Well,
Love that.
That'll be a great time. I'm sure you're bringing the wine, right?
Well, we got there's a bunch of wine drinkers there, so that should be a lot of fun. But I was going to ask you guys, like, are you bringing one of your Stop Wasting Your Wine recommended bottles this year? Are you going to grab something new? Are you not going to big swing because you're not in the right company? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, we're keeping it chill.
Yeah.
There's not
So
too
Gamay.
much going on. Yeah, probably something like that.
Wine
Nothing
joke.
too crazy.
That was a nice little joke right there. I
'Cause
totally
it's
picked up
chill.
what you're putting down. I love that.
I didn't
No.
even get
You
it.
have to explain it to me.
Wine.
You had to explain it to me, but that was delightful.
And it's also
I'm sorry
a
I missed it.
Thanksgiving wine. Check out our Gamay episode.
Good plug.
Well done.
Yeah,
well
there you
done.
go.
Really
Knock
good
it in.
plug. Yeah.
So no
I don't think
wines?
I'm gonna swing, man. I'm keeping it fastball right down the middle of the plate.
Just
Nice
bringing
and
some of
easy,
those
baby.
Bellinis from last week. Just grabbing those table wines.
That's exactly the style I'm looking for. That's like exactly the wheelhouse. Yeah, 100%. Maybe get a little fun with the white that I bring, But even there,
Sure.
keeping it pretty darn reined in,
For sure. Yeah, not a lot of terribly adventurous wine drinkers in my
Yeah.
family. And honestly, it's going to be like...
Same.
There are only going to be about 7 people there. So, I'm not trying to impress anybody, really.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
No, I'm in like that friend group where it's like, I'm not totally expecting because other folks have wine stuff, but like they're gonna want. So I might, I might go grab that Turley bottle that we did a while ago.
That's
Like
fun.
That's a good
Yeah.
red wine for dinner. I'm thinking maybe grabbing like a Beaujolais or something like that. I
Yeah.
don't know, just some fun Thanksgiving stuff. Maybe the wine from tonight.
We'll see.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be
we'll
nice?
see. Nice segue.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, so that's our hope for this evening. Last week we talked about kind of straightforward table wines. If you just have to, have something out, maybe have a bunch of something, $13 bottles of wine that were pretty passable last week. I was really happy with the wine for the price that we discovered last week, and I think our hope this week is maybe a step up from that, but maybe something that is equally accessible drinking wise, and pretty accessible from the affordability standpoint. Anyways, Joel, do you want to talk to our listener about what we're drinking today?
I would love to, yes. So today we are going to be drinking the Castello de Titignano Turlo. This is from Tunata di Salviano, and this is from the region of Umbria. So in this blend here, we have got Sangiovese, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Merlot, otherwise known as a Super Umbria, which I did not know before starting to record this session here. So looking forward to Colin explaining a little bit more about that. So hang on to that term, kids. Stay tuned. This is from 2022. It's got an ABV of 14.5% and retails for somewhere between $16 and $25, depending on where you're picking this up from.
Cool. A Super Umbria. Colin, what is that, sir?
Yeah, so when I first heard the term, because I've honestly never heard it before, but I immediately thought Super Tuscan, which is a blend of grapes outside of the traditional grapes in the region.
Right.
You know, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot. Even in this case, Sangiovese is not necessarily an Umbrian grape. So a Super Umbrian is a blend of different grapes that falls outside of what you would usually find in the region.
Very cool.
Okay. Very good.
Yes.
I don't know. My brain didn't at all go over to Super Tuscan, which we've had. It was a long time ago, but
yes.
You know, we talked about that a little bit. So okay, so same idea, but just
Same idea.
Umbria. Okay,
That's right.
Nice.
Yep.
Very cool.
It's kind of just trying to package their own thing there. I'm scanning some stuff and like a lot of definitions, like just a Super Tuscan, just not from Tuscany. You're like, okay, okay,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's a Super Tuscan from Umbria, but
well
you can't
done,
call it a Super
Umbrians.
Tuscan.
You've done it.
Yeah.
You've repackaged it. You've made it your own, and I am intrigued in drinking it. So, good job.
It worked.
It worked. Great marketing. Well, fantastic. Well, let's see if it holds up to I had to look back. Do you guys remember the last time we actually did a full-fledged Super Tuscan on the show?
I don't. I just
Not.
remember it was a long
I know we've
time
had a
ago.
lot of Italian wine, but I can't think
Yeah.
of the last Super Tuscan we've had.
September
know?
2023, episode 7 of Stop Wasting Your Wine. Yep.
A time, that's really the time frame that most avid listeners of Stop Wasting Your Wine say we were really hitting our stride. That was our sweet spot.
Yeah,
They say
Glory
right
days.
around 7, 8, and 9 was when we peaked, and we've been going downhill for the last 2.5 years. So,
Surprisingly long hill. It's just
Yeah,
it just
really.
keeps going down.
keeps rolling.
absolutely.
No, but in all seriousness, those episodes were not great. But you have to give us a
nostalgic.
couple to find the steps.
I think they were lovely.
They were all right.
They were the start
First
of
few are
something
going to
beautiful.
not be great. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it, Aaron. I love that.
Yeah. Well, so we've had some time since we've had a combination similar to this. I am very excited. We've had a lot of great Cab Sauv on the show. We've had a lot of great Sangioveses and some Merlots, and so to get the blend going again, I'm excited to see what we got. So let's not waste any more time. Let's see what we got on the nose.
Tastes like wine.
Joel, do you want to get us started so Colin doesn't take all the good words?
Sure. Do you think at episode like 500, we're going to listen back to this episode and be like, God, we suck.
That episode sucked.
That was our
Yeah.
first Super Umbrian. We've done 30 since then.
Yeah, exactly. We're now known as the Super Umbria guys. All right. A lot going on here, I think. A lot of like fresh berry type fruits, little, raspberry,
that.
I'll say little cherry, but very bright and pretty darn fruit forward.
Nice. Colin?
Yeah, I agree. I think we're up and down the color spectrum here, too. There's definitely some red cherry, but also I think some darker cherry. Raspberry, I think, is a good call. Maybe a little bit of strawberry in there, too. It's definitely a ton of fruit, though. I mean, just absolute fruity McFruit.
Yep.
In like a really fresh way, though. It's not a punch in the face of fruit that I think we've experienced in the past. Like, it's there, it's light, it's refreshing, but it's not like, sometimes you open up a red and it's just like an absolute bomb to the face. And this to me is a little bit, it's a little waftier in that. I also there's like a little bit of oak, not a ton, but just a little oak on the edge, which, is kind of nice.
Yeah, it's definitely Italian fruit. I'll say that, which is a little bit more, not as overly ripe or maybe a little bit more rustic is usually the word associated with Italian wine. But you're right, it's not like a juice bomb. It's very fruity, but it's not over the top.
Yeah, it's all there,
on the nose.
but it's not overbearing.
Yes,
Cool.
for sure.
All right. Joel, what are you getting? What are you getting on the palate?
So I definitely think it's a little softer on the palate than I was expecting when I was smelling it. More of the kind of deeper, darker red fruits kind of coming forward, which I think I like. I was afraid a little bit that it was going to just be very, like, almost too young, like almost too Beaujolais Nouveau-y. But it's actually not. It's softer and a little warmer than I was expecting.
Yeah, I think soft is a good term because sometimes I feel like we use the word thin, and I don't feel like thin is correct here.
Sure.
But maybe almost like, and this is just compared to the nose. This is not in general, but maybe a little bit more muted. I would say the nose is definitely a little bit more expressive than the palate. But Joel, like I think you mentioned, not in a bad way. I think it actually works because you're kind of expecting a fruit bomb right up front, and it kind of backs off, and in a really nice way. So I agree with that there.
I think the word that just keeps popping into my head as I'm drinking this is like accessible. Like it has like a really beginner vibe balance to me in like the most positive way. Like there's a little bit of tannins. It's like medium body. The acidity's right there. There's some really nice flavors. There's like a tiny hint of oak. And everything is just kind of like, if you just want to sit and drink a red, we kind of talked about at the beginning. This is not a table wine by definition in a lot of ways. Colin and I were joking about this, looking at the label ahead of time. This is 14.5%. We talked last week about how like usually you want your table wines to be in like maybe the 12% or less range, so you're not knocking out everyone sitting at your table and you're not getting in a political argument with your uncle like 30 minutes in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Good.
So this is definitely a heavier hitter, but it has that same kind of, I think, approachability so far what I'm experiencing in the taste. I think you can pour this to your average red wine drinker and they would find a lot they like there.
Yeah, I would actually say dangerously approachable at 14.5% because you don't get that alcohol at all. Like from a table wine perspective, I think the flavor profile fits, but not from an alcohol perspective.
Sure.
But it drinks like a 13.5%, which I think is super dangerous.
Not only does it drink like a 13.5%, I think it's pretty up there with the acid level that it's presenting, which I think is working for everything that you've mentioned. I think that's a big reason why it's approachable.
For sure.
And also, I know we don't, sometimes we talk about food with the wine. Since we're in that kind of Thanksgiving mode, I think this would be really nice with, some cranberry sauce, with some turkey, that sort of a thing. Like it's a wine, not getting into review or anything, but it's a wine that's enjoyable while we're drinking it here, but also lends itself, I think, really nicely to food.
Yeah. The tastes are not overbearing in any way that's going to mess with whatever flavor profile you're getting on the meal. Like this, I 100% agree with that.
For sure. No, I agree with that too. And since you said food, and this kind of came up on the finish, which is actually quite nice. But I get a little bit of those Italian herbs, I think.
Yeah.
It's definitely not as intense, like on the nose. I don't know if I picked it up at all, but almost on the finish, it has an herbal kind of ending, kind of lands in an herbal field somewhere, but
sure.
really nice. And I think that definitely lends itself to how well this would pair with food. So good call on that, Joel.
Agreed. Oh, thanks.
Sure. I will say too, right before we move on to learning a little bit more about Umbria and the surrounding area, we did open this up a little bit, right? I think we all kind of opened it at different times, and I would say as it has stayed open, it is definitely just expanded the experience. I would say this is definitely a wine that you should pop open, maybe decant, just let air out a little bit before you drink. Just give it a little bit of time. Because as time's going on, it's getting a lot better.
I would totally decant this, especially if you're having it with a meal. This is actually a wine where it's been a really cool experience trying it at different stages. Sometimes a wine is like super tight when you open it up and it's not that good. Like my first sip out of the bottle is like, okay, this has some stuff here, some wines don't. And this has evolved in a really interesting way. Some wines take a really long time to do that. I've had this open for maybe, I don't know, an hour now. And it's had a really fun evolution, taking sips here, taking sips there over the course. So I think, if you're sitting down and you have some time, like at a meal or something like that, and you want to see a really good example of a wine and how it can evolve over time, I think this is a really cool decantable wine that you can do that with.
for sure.
Absolutely. And you know what? Let's step away. Let's learn a little bit more about the area that we're drinking from. And then maybe this is a wine that after we learn a little bit, we're going to come back and taste and get a little more out of. Who knows? But let's jump into some wine drops.
Time to drop some knowledge. Wine drops.
All right, so we already learned a little bit about this whole super Umbria thing, super Tuscan thing, and just, my mind right now is trying to think of Umbria as a region, and we already kind of called out this is our first Umbria that we're trying. So, Aaron, question for you. What is it about Umbrias that, kind of make them their own thing, make them stand out when they're surrounded by areas like Tuscany, Lazio, and Marche?
Yeah, I think this is a really fun region to talk about this week because I feel like over the past couple months we've just happened to have a lot of wines that have come off these coastal vineyards. We're talking all about like the sea breeze coming off and the different climate changes on the coast, and this is the opposite of that, right? So Umbria is in the center of Italy and has no coastline at all, and so
which is funny if you think of it, because in my mind, Italy, I mean, you have northern Italy, coast, which is mountains, and then the rest of the country I figured is just coastline. So
there's so much coast. Right? So I'm saying it's kind of fun because this is so different than so many of the regions we've learned about, so many of the estates and and vineyards that we've talked about. And so they are totally landlocked. And but what that does for them is it creates a really stable climate for them, right? And so it's just warm summers, cooler nights. And they rely on the surrounding hillsides to really manage the temperature and the ripeness of the grapes. And so, this region really earns that attention, has that reputation for the consistency from year to year. And a lot of that has to do with the geographic nature of the area. So beyond the consistency provided by the geography, Umbria is known for both crisp whites and powerful reds. So, Colin, how does the location and climate allow for such a variety of wine styles in the area?
Yeah, sure. What it really comes down to is the different soil types in the region and then the difference in elevation where the grapes are grown. So you have volcanic soils around the Orvieto region, which support the fresh white wines made from Grosseto and Trebbiano. I'm actually doing this, the Italian thing, as I say that. Yeah, it does. It helps a lot. And then as you move towards Montefalco, which is another region within Umbria, the vineyards rise in altitude where they grow Sagrantino, which is the red grape, and that rise in altitude gives it a little extra heat and sunlight, and then you also have that coolness factor, which allows the grapes to ripen fully and produce the really intense red wines known from the region. So, and that also goes back to the super Umbrian point. We just named that Sagrantino is the grape in Umbria. There's no Sagrantino in this wine, so you probably couldn't call it a Umbria DOC because it doesn't have that grape in there. So
interesting.
So terroir, area, climate has a lot to do with where we are in this region. And actually, there's a really cool geographic element to this as well, Joel. So can you tell us a little bit more about how a man-made lake ended up shaping the entire wine zone?
Pardon me?
Yeah. Can you believe that? So stay with me here because this is pretty crazy. Yeah, and I love this because I think we've learned a lot about just how these regions, are in this perfect little area on this perfect longitudinal line for, this and that, and it's right by the coast and all these things. And it's just, some of these really famous regions that we love, we know and love for their wine because they happen to be just perfectly situated. This is kind of an example of not nature necessarily making this happen, but a man-made structure that only dates back to about the 1960s. So Lago di Corbara, it's an artificial reservoir created in the 1960s because they built a dam across the Tiber River. So flooded this whole area, this valley that, otherwise would have been dry, right? So it made this huge, huge man-made lake. So it basically serves as this like moderating entity for the climate of all of the area around it. So what that really means is keeps the days cooler and keeps the nights warmer and kind of takes those swings that would otherwise have an impact on the development of the grapes and smooths them out completely. So what ends up happening is slower ripening, grapes develop more consistent tannins and color, And these grapes that we're drinking here, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Sangiovese, really respond well to those conditions. So in an area that would otherwise not really be perfect for these grapes, this man-made structure ends up creating this perfect little area to grow these grapes in, which is pretty darn cool.
I would be super curious to know if there are any other DOC or other country equivalents that are specifically areas around man-made climate impacting features, you know, like that's such a cool little nugget of information there. Drop of information, I should say.
I love that wasn't the intention. You know, they weren't like, oh, we want to go and make we want to grow more grapes. It was just, it happened. A happy result that happened from this thing.
Awesome. Well, I feel like we just learned a lot about an area that I quite frankly didn't know a lot about before this, and a really cool history fact. All right, guys, I'm excited to get back into this, and man, I get so excited. I love when we find a wine that we weren't expecting. You know, just new region, new stuff, new blend. It's good stuff. Man, since I'm hosting, I'm going to get to go last on my review. Colin, I'm going to pull you in first. First of all, anything you noticed since you opened it that you didn't notice before? And, what are your final thoughts on this thing?
Yeah, but did they like it? It's time for the review.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I think it's definitely a wine you want to let open up. The first sip was a little tight out of the bottle, but it's really opened up, and all the flavors have softened. It's a little rough out of the bottle. The structure has also softened quite a bit. I like it quite a bit. I think it's a really nice wine. I think it's dangerous at 14.5%. This wine is one of the most quaffable 14.5% wines that I've
the word
had.
Came out.
It came back. That's 2 weeks in a row, if I'm not mistaken. Boom.
So many quaffable wines.
So many. But I'll say this, and I'm kind of struggling between casual sipper and must share. And we talked about at the beginning, there's a little bit of a price range difference. You can find it from 16 to 25. So as far as value is concerned, I think if you're going to find this under 20, absolute must share. I think it provides a lot of value under $20. Over $20, I think it's still a really nice wine, but I don't know if I'd want to be spending over 20. So I think it's a casual sipper at that price point. That it doesn't take away from the quality of the wine, but I definitely think under 20 is fantastic value, while over 20 is good value. And, I still might give it a shot, especially for Thanksgiving. I think this would be a great Thanksgiving wine if this was, maybe after your initial table wine salvo. So, that's kind of where I am with this wine. It's delicious. I'm enjoying drinking it. I think there's just a value play in here that keeps me on the edge.
Excellent. Joel, what do you think?
I think the point of diminishing return here is past even the $25 mark. I think at any point on the spectrum here, wherever you find this, I mean, within that, we have the lens of 16 to $25 here. I think wherever you are in there, this is a must share. Here's my reasoning too. First of all, I'm just enjoying the heck out of this. I think it's really, really cool.
It's tasty.
Yeah, it's very tasty. The backstory made me even like it a little bit more. I'm not going to lie. That might be weighing into this a little bit. But what I think is really cool is, you guys can attest to this, but when we first opened this, I opened mine right before we started recording. I usually like to open it a little bit before. I didn't. Open it right before we started recording, and my first reaction was, I think the smell's really nice, but I don't think the taste really backs it up. Literally 5 minutes later, I'm drinking this thing, and I'm like, whoa, this is really cool. And just like you called out, every kind of like 5-10 minute increment that's gone by, different experience. And I think I could go for probably another 30 minutes with the same thing happening, which I think is just really neat. And it's getting more and more, I'll say complex, but I don't mean complex like it's like getting tougher and tougher to break down and all this stuff. It's just, it's offering more and continuing to be really, really, I'll say quaffable because that's the perfect word.
Quaffable.
It really is, and it's offering more, and there's more little cool things to pick out, but it's not making me want to drink this less with food. It's not making me want to drink this less right now, which I think is a really cool thing. So Love a new region. Love the fact that I've enjoyed the heck out of this. I'm going to say must share across the board.
I'm right there with Joel. I think the bang for your buck is great. I think this is a must share. To Colin's point, especially at $16.99, it's a great deal.
Yeah.
I keep going back to that word accessible. It's just a really well-balanced red blend. We love Sangiovese on the show. We love Cab Sauv. The mix is just really nice. I think there's a little bit for everyone. Nothing is overbearing. If anything is a ding, it's that it's 14.5% alcohol and you cannot taste it. And, the ding is just be careful how fast and how much of this you drink, because it's really tasty and it's very easy.
Yeah.
It's very easy to drink a lot of this, and it's packs a punch. So absolute must share. And if you are looking for a bottle of wine, I think for your Thanksgiving meal, that is slightly elevated, but again, not breaking the bank and not gonna really demand like these really intricate wine palettes to enjoy. This could be a great absolute choice to grab in the next couple days for your Thanksgiving dinner.
It's kind of like saying a ding against a Ferrari is that it can go really, really fast if you want it to.
Exactly. The handling is not great if you're going too fast.
Yeah. I will say, and I think part of the reason why I put it into the casual sipper beyond just value is it's kind of simple, and I think a lot of people will like it, which is not a knock on the wine at all, right? Like, I think that's a positive about this, which is why, at the end of the day, I think at $16.99, this is absolute home run. But, I think the wine is super tasty. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. I don't want to give the wrong impression that I'm kind of on the edge there, but, I think it's just a dollars thing for me.
Sure.
Sure, and we should name, like, if you're looking for a hyper complex wine, like, this is not the most complex wine I've ever had. It's just a very tasty one.
It is super tasty.
Yep. But I also do just want to call out, I know we've said it before, but I also think that that's one of the benefits. It's got so much going on. It still changes and evolves, but I can still sit down and eat this with something, like have something to eat with this, which is cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the big takeaway for today, we still want kind of a table wine episode. And yes, this wine, slightly higher ABV, slightly more expensive. But if you're looking for a wine that's approachable for everyone at the table, to keep everyone happy, it doesn't swing really far with tannins or have really over the top flavors. Just like you want a wine that's going to go well with the food and is going to keep most people at the table happy with a red. This is probably a great choice.
And get everybody messed up before, the turkey comes out.
Start an argument about the state of the country.
Let's get wild.
By 7. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, cool. And
Here
you know
it
what?
is.
That might be what you need to do. Let's play a game.
Yeah.
We're going to play a new game today. The Secret Life of Wine.
I like that. Please tell me more. I'm
Absolutely.
intrigued.
All right, in today's game, we're going to imagine what this wine does when no one else is watching. We're going to think about this wine, and we're going to think about the personality behind it, and we're going to apply some humanistic behaviors to those wines. What was that in school? We learned that? Personification?
Personifying?
Yeah. We're going to do some personification of
Mm-hmm.
these wines. All right? So, let's get started, gentlemen. I want you to think about this wine. I want you to think about everything we've experienced so far. And I want you to let me know, what hobby is this wine hiding from everyone?
Oh, what is it hiding?
Yeah,
Not just
it has this hobby, but no one knows it has this hobby.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know why, but one popped in my head. This wine is very into like pottery, like clay pottery, but they're very good at it. And they have the wheel and they have the kiln and they do all the stuff, and people buy this wine's pottery at markets and stuff. But he doesn't like to talk about it. He keeps it kind of under the radar. That's what this wine does.
Yeah, I was gonna go with like Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
It it doesn't love that it plays, but also really good at playing. It provides some great value at the low end.
Yeah.
But it can get a little shaky at the high end. It's not ready to come out of its Magic the Gathering shell, and maybe it's still getting into it. But that's what it does on the weekends.
I see that. I like that. Yeah.
This wine's a bird watcher.
bird watcher.
This wine is a bird watcher. It's just it's one of those things that like you don't tell anyone about it, but then you find out like everyone actually likes it. Like especially when you hit a certain age, you're like, oh, I'm not gonna tell anyone because this is who wants to know about this, and then you're like, oh, everyone likes this. This is fun. This is nice.
You start showing people some pictures, like that's
it
really
spreads
nice.
really fast.
I like that.
I think this is the wine that just everyone's gonna like, even if they might not be talking about their super Umbria. Everyone's gonna like it once they find out about it.
BU wine.
I like that.
BU.
Okay, nice. All right, well that was our new game. The Secret Life of Wine. Let us know what you think. Whether or not this is a keeper, a repeater, or whether or not that was a one and done.
Could go either way.
Could go either way. It depends on how you feel. All right, guys, great episode, great wine. Another one, fun one, super
Indeed.
Umbria wine. Joel, can you hit our listener one more time what we were drinking today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, not a waste of your wine. Again, this is the Castello de Titignano Turlo from Tenuta di Salviano. And, boy, just super fun. Our first kind of entry into the Umbria area, and a lot of fun. And looking forward to doing more. Yeah.
I'm super into super Umbrias.
Hey,
Heard that.
There we go.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you can get near you, give it a shot. Stop Wasting Wine approved. All right, and speaking of, Stop Wasting Wine approved, Colin, if someone wanted to interact with our show a little bit more, get to know us, chat with us, reach out, how would one do so?
Yeah, absolutely. You could either email us, cheers@stopwastingyourwine.com, or come on over, check us out on Instagram @stopwastingyourwine. Aaron is over there doing a phenomenal job. And then if you're listening to this, we'd really appreciate if you would go check out our YouTube and subscribe over there.
Fantastic. All right, y'all. Great episode. Always a lot of fun. And come back next week.
And remember, stop wasting your wine.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.